The Lost Generation, despite being more than a century removed from its existence, continues to resonate with striking similarity in today's society. Imagine growing up during that era, a period when you were confronted with the devastating shadow of war, an unrelenting pandemic, merciless economic times, and a whirlwind of social change. The First World War was a true hell on earth. Over 60 million souls were dragged into its maelstrom, leaving behind a trail of 8.5 million dead and 21 million wounded. Additionally, 2 million soldiers succumbed to deadly diseases. Speaking of diseases, the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 to 1920 showed no mercy either. Some reports estimate that between 17 and 50 million lives were extinguished worldwide, while others speak of a horrifying toll of up to 100 million. After the storm of war and plague, the world plunged into economic turmoil that culminated in the Great Depression of the 1930s. High unemployment rates, misery, and a pervasive sense of hopelessness tormented humanity. Amidst the gloom, popular culture emerged as a lifesaver in the form of movies and magazines, offering a temporary escape from the painful reality. In 1920, women finally gained the right to vote, and new job opportunities opened for those who were widowed by the war. A new figure in pop culture known as the flapper challenged established social norms with a wild and festive attitude, bringing a breath of fresh air. The Lost Generation went down in history for its resilience, its ability to survive in dark times, and its potential to shed light on modern or future periods. Also known as the World War II generation, is noted for its heroism, technological innovation, and prosperity. The youth of that era grew up in a constantly evolving world, and many advancements became commonplace. The emergence of devices such as the radiophone and the automobile marked a significant era in the United States. Culture and entertainment flourished during this period, initiating the golden age of Hollywood, with gangster films, musicals, comedies, and monster movies captivating massive audiences. Additionally, it was the birth of iconic comic book franchises like Superman and Batman. In the music industry, jazz, blues, gospel music, folk music, and swing jazz rose as majestic titans. The radio, that powerful instrument, captivated countless Americans, becoming the window to a world filled with exciting fireside chats by President Roosevelt and the portal to the most captivating news. In that dark corner of history, 16 million brave Americans rose to serve in World War II, the majority of them members of the greatest generation. 38.8% volunteered, while 61.2% were called to duty and served during the distressing average duration of 33 months. The ravages of war took away approximately 671,000 compatriots in the United States. Even in the year 2023, nearly 120,000 of those heroes who served in that horrific conflict are still alive today, witnesses to unimaginable times. The silent generation, born amidst the fall of Nazism and the rise of communism, witnessed a new era of challenges. As these young people came of age after World War II, they found themselves in a world devastated by the Soviet Union's betrayal of post-war agreements, triggering a global confrontation that would last half a century. Unlike past generations which rose to change the system, the silent generation chose to work within the system, keeping their heads down and fighting tirelessly. The influence of the golden age of radio, the rise of labor unions, advancements in transatlantic aviation, and the discovery of penicillin marked their formative years. This generation tended to marry and start families early, and their reluctance to take risks would later be criticized by bolder generations, such as the baby boomers. We arrive at the boomers, perhaps the most iconic of all. The generation born in the 40s, 50s, and 60s left its mark on the history of the United States. With a robust post-war economy, these boomers witnessed an unmatched demographic boom, with 76 million births during this period. Their influence extended to all corners of the economy, becoming a central pillar of product marketing related to their age group, from toys to records, as well as in the demand for items that were previously considered luxuries, such as laundry machines, dishwashers, refrigerators, and telephones. Products once reserved for the elite became accessible to the average citizen, allowing them to live like the high society of past generations. Plastics, television, magnetic tape transistors, integrated circuits, and lasers emerged as silent heroes in this transformation, significantly elevating the quality of life. But it wasn't all a fairy tale, as this this period of optimism also brought with it a fiery cultural fever. The music industry was ignited with the passion and creativity of artists like the Beatles, Bob Dylan, the Rolling Stones, and others who rose to the top of fame. However, this was a time of intense debates, where political discussions on topics such as the sexual revolution, civil rights, nuclear weapons, ethnic diversity, and environmental protection became overwhelmingly prominent. This generation, radical in its essence, embraced diverse perspectives, leaning towards left-wing causes and firmly challenging the conservative traditions that still persisted. These political disputes culminated in protests, which in some cases turned violent, especially as the Vietnam War dragged on. American society was at a crossroads, gradually dividing and losing trust in its government, sowing the seeds of distrust for future generations. Then, Generation X emerged, often called the latchkey generation, as the children of this era returned to empty homes after school and had to use a key to enter, reflecting an era of increased independence in child-rearing, a rise in divorce rates, greater maternal participation in the workforce, and a widespread availability of childcare options outside the home. The young adults of this period, known as the MTV generation, were sometimes characterized as disillusioned and cynical. As birth rates declined due to factors like the legalization of birth control and abortion, this generation found themselves in a transforming world, challenging the expectations set by the previous generation. The decline in birth rates in the United States was partially offset by the arrival of immigrants, resulting in Generation X in the United States becoming a more culturally and ethnically diverse generation than the country had ever seen before. During this time, the music of Generation X witnessed the rise of many alternative rock, punk, post-punk, and heavy metal bands, all amidst an explosion of technological innovation. With the proliferation of personal computers competing with manufacturers like Apple, Commodore, and Atari, the video game industry flourished in the 1970s and 1980s, with arcades becoming hugely popular across the country. Nintendo and Atari, among others, introduced video game consoles in contrast to the baby boomers' experience. Generation X highly valued education, as college enrollment became much more common. Individualism and entrepreneurial spirit became hallmarks of this generation, laying the groundwork for the creation of technological giants like Google, Wikipedia, Amazon, and YouTube in the 1990s and early 2000s. Millennials, also known as Generation Y, were the first generation to grow up with access to the internet, mobile technology, and social media. They are often described as the first globally connected generation, with the entire world at their fingertips. However, they faced economic challenges, experiencing slower economic growth when entering the workforce compared to any other generation in history. In addition, they were impacted by the burden of student loan debt and high childcare costs. Millennials were born in an era of declining fertility rates worldwide, resulting in them having fewer children than their predecessors. They were also criticized for having less sex compared to previous generations at the same age. In 2010, the unemployment rate in the United States hit a historic low of 19%, leading to a dramatic increase in youth poverty and a large number of them living with their parents. Millennials are also less likely to be religious than their predecessors, although many identify as spiritual. This generation lived through the shocking events of September 11th, which changed American culture and initiated the war on terrorism. However, it's not all grim for them, as they are known for their digital fluency, diverse perspectives, and a strong sense of social awareness. Born in an era when global news and information can be accessed in seconds, millennials are highly active both socially and politically, and do not hesitate to use their voice. Despite the previously mentioned economic challenges, over 80% of them feel financially secure, reflecting their generally positive outlook in an increasingly complex world. Generation Z, or Zoomers, stands out significantly from millennials. They grew up in a digital world from the start, marked by movements for social justice, disruptive political figures like Donald Trump, the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, and a pandemic that impacted their life during high school and college. Immersed in a dopamine economy, where apps like YouTube and TikTok transform information and memes are used to spread ideas, Zoomers embrace individualism and entrepreneurial spirit driven by the internet and the gig economy, which has revolutionized the nature of work with an increase in freelance and remote work. Furthermore, social media is shaping culture in a way that is unique compared to previous generations. In contrast, current media and the entertainment industry allow individuals to attract as much attention as traditional media, leading to jobs in social media content creation and the rise of influencers. On the other hand, Generation Alpha, primarily raised by millennials, finds itself on uncertain ground. Known as the pandemic generation, they experienced the pandemic in their childhood and are growing up in a world with significant changes in education and entertainment due to technology. Their relationship with the internet, which has evolved over 2 decades, will influence their entry into adulthood in the 2030s. Although the United Nations predicts an average life expectancy of 83 years for Generation Alpha travel worldwide, they will face significant challenges such as mental health issues, misinformation, and polarization. Their future is filled with uncertainty and unanswered questions.